Hey guys, it's Bill with Modern Thirst. Thanks for joining us. We've got a special video for you tonight. We're going to do some tasting of Pursuit Spirits. That's a new label that's brought to you by the folks at Bourbon Pursuit Podcast. Tonight we've got Timothy Van Riper, Modern Thirst's newest writer, so he's going to be tasting us, and we're real lucky to have Kenny Coleman from Bourbon Pursuit. So let's go ahead and get started. Kenny, why don't you tell us how you came about starting this label in the first place? You started out with the podcast. Obviously, I think anyone who gets really into bourbon at some point thinks, I need to make my own.
Might as well. You know, Bill, first, thanks for having me here. And yeah, it's exactly what you said. It just was something that it almost kind of fell into our lap. It all kind of started because we host every 3 weeks for the podcast. We do this community roundtable, and we have a few different bloggers on. We talk about recent news. We talk about some reviews. And we talked about one spirit, and then all of a sudden I get this phone call a few weeks later, and he's like, hey, you talked about this one bourbon on your podcast, and we helped build that brand. Would you be interested in doing your own? And we were kind of like, well, never really thought about it, but sure, let's talk. Come to find out, he was a barrel broker, and he gave us an opportunity that's kind of unlike everything else. If we have podcasts out there about the dirty secrets behind barrel brokering, you know, if you want to buy and start your own brand, you've got to buy 50, 100 barrels, whatever it is, and you have no idea what they taste like. You have no idea what the fill level is. You just go in blind, and you have to come with a checkbook. He gave us a unique opportunity where he actually allowed us to come down, and we taste over the span of 2 days when we go somewhere between 36 and 50 barrels, and we get to hand select every barrel that we want to bottle. So everything we do is very unique. We try to find variety. We try to find these single barrel expressions that really provide a difference, but also captivate really what a whiskey lover wants to get at, and that's why we bottle at cask strength, unchilled, filtered, non-filtered, just basically from the barrel to the bottle, because that's the way we tasted it, and we know that really that's what our audience loves to drink as well.
That's awesome. My favorite part about this, and I've only tasted this once, I cracked episode number 5 yesterday. My favorite part about it is how creative the packaging and the labeling is. Because obviously, as you start with a podcast, everything on the label is geared as if it was an episode of the podcast. And I really love that. It's really creative. It ties the two together so well. Whose idea was that? How did that come about?
Yeah, you kind of nailed it right on the head. That's kind of what we were going for. We wanted to try to figure out how can we make this sort of loosely tied. They're separate entities at the end of the day, but everything has baggage, I guess. And so everything has some sort of play on it. So you've got the play button, you've got show notes, and the show notes are really what describes that particular barrel or what we were feeling at that moment. And so like number 5, I think it's the one that says it's like a pioneer that's churning butter in an oak barrel, because we thought that one was a very buttery kind of finish. And so the show notes are a big way to kind of play on just the tasting notes in themselves. We also take some notes from other industry veterans that are out there, and we try to bring that as a way to kind of flare up the label. So when you see the different colors, it's a way to be able to discern when you see episode 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so on and so forth. Each one is going to have a different color next to each other. So when you see them on the shelf, you're going to have to, it kind of stands out a little bit. And then you kind of know that there are these differences between them at the same exact time.
And where'd you find the bottles? Because it's a pretty unique shape. I'm sure you can't see it on the camera, but it's not quite round. Reminds me a little bit of Parker's Heritage.
I can tell you the story of exactly how that works. So our package designer came over to my bar. I've got 150 bottles on the bar, and we sit there and we look for probably 30 minutes. We're just scanning and trying to figure out like, oh, what bottle will be good? What will be good? And he points out, he goes, I really like that one. And of course he points out a Parker's Heritage bottle, and I immediately said, oh crap, because this is going to be hard to find. A few phone calls later, scouring the web, we ended up finding a warehouse that had bottles like these. They're not the exact same as Parker's, but they do have sort of the same shape and characteristics. And we ended up choosing that and then also making the labels a little bit tapered so they sort of fit it much better. We also do some things around the neck by being able to have sort of again, it all kind of plays. We've got the black cap and you've got the silver strip on it, and the silver strip has audio bars, and that really what plays off the series of this in the Pursuit.
Nice. I think my favorite part about it is it's fun. I think too many people take their whiskey seriously. Like, you can take it seriously. Don't take it damn seriously. It's whiskey. It's meant to be enjoyed, so enjoy it.
And that was their big thing is we knew when we wanted to do this, we didn't want to sit there and try to rectify an old brand or make old Coleman or whatever it is. We didn't really want to do that. We were like, what can we do that's fun?
I'm going to go trademark that myself.
Old Coleman. But we knew we wanted to be fun. And that's what we're trying to really tailor to, as I'd mentioned, our audience, the new whiskey consumer, these people that are younger, and that's why we try to make the label a little airier and brighter, and it's not just another dark label on a bottle.
Well, it's cool. I like it. Let's taste some of it. That's the best part, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So we have a number of ones here. We have episode 5 that I have here. What did you bring with us to taste? What should we start with? Should we go in order here?
We can do whichever one you grab out of there, and we can kind of talk about it. So we've got 5, 7, 8, 9, and then we've got a future one in there. We've got a few others too.
I've got some of your samples here too. So I've got 6, 7, 8, 9, and bottle number 5. You tell us what you like.
I'll tell you what, between 5 and 9, those are, I think, some of the best 2 that we have ever chosen. So I think those are probably a really good place to start.
Let's go numerically then.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So
one of the things I really like about your bottle is he was saying how it's fun. There's not a whole lot of it's really appealing to the eye. Like, you look at it and you're like, oh man, like I really just want to drink this bottle. Like whatever's in here, like I don't know. Like I was over at a buddy's house recently, and he donated barrel 4 to a charity auction I just recently did. Mm-hmm. And like we were going through his bunker, he's like, what do you want to do? And I was like, that bottle. And I didn't even know, like I knew about, because I watched the podcast, but I didn't know that, I was still new to your guys' brand. And I was like, holy cow, like this is awesome. So like, it's really like, I like that it's really like eye grabbing, really appealing to the eye. That was my takeaway, just as far as the bottle goes.
Well, I'm glad to hear that you actually are able to try episode 4, because episode 4 was strictly friends and family release.
Right.
That one really didn't make it out to the general public too much. That was one that was, again, it's funny, when we started this, everybody's kind of like, well, wouldn't you want your first release to be friends and family? We're like, no, because our friends and family aren't our consumers. That's not our target audience. And so it became, because essentially what we do is we give first access for anybody that wants to purchase these through Patreon. And that's how our podcast is really funded, and that's how we grow. And so we give our biggest supporters the opportunity to be able to go first. We're also a little bit unique in the fact that we are trying to break some new grounds here and not go through traditional distribution.
Right.
Everything we're trying to do is kind of moving the needle. I'm a tech guy myself, and I know when you start looking at this, you try to figure out, well, there's a lot of silly laws that really prohibit, being able to get your spirits across state lines. But we said, we're going to go ahead and try to take this on head first. And so we've partnered up with sealbox.com, and they are, at this moment, our sole retailer to be able to get these bottles to your door. And we thought about it, and we said, well, the modern consumer is trying to, they're waiting in whiskey lines, they're sitting there scouring store shelves, and we're like, well, why can't we just get it delivered to your door? Like, wouldn't it be better just to pay $15 and not have to worry about it? And so that's kind of why we said, well, let's go ahead and see if we can try this new business model. And it's been very successful because, it's the convenience factor at the end of the day. We're sitting here talking. How often does that really happen? Do people even call on their cell phone? Like, most people would rather text.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So you try to figure out what's that convenience factor when we went through this, and really, we're happy to be able to do that. We will be in stores soon, at least around Kentucky. But again, online first was really our go-to to try and really break some new grounds there.
I think it's really neat. anything I buy is the first place I go to buy it is Amazon. If I don't have to leave my house, if I don't have to see 500 people in spandex pants that are 3 sizes too small at Walmart, I'm a happy man. So I bought this bottle online, and I thought it was the easiest process. I thought it worked out really well. So,
absolutely.
I think it's really just a matter of get the word out, and that seal box is around, and that you're available on that. And I think it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, I mean,
and no one likes the 3-tier system. Let's just be honest here. Let's be honest.
Well, I mean, except distributors, they love it. Other than that, but the other thing is, we're happy to partner with Sealbox. What Blake is trying to do with it, and be able to bring craft spirits that don't necessarily have the ability to have national distribution, by essentially locating inside of Washington, D.C., it opens up that to more states around the nation. And when we started going down this path, we sort of reached out to him and said, what do you think? He said, I love the idea. Like, let's do it. And we figured that's a home run for us, because now we don't have to sit there and figure out the states and the distributors and all this other kind of stuff. We could just kind of get started right away without having to go through a traditional launch process, if you will.
So I cracked episode number 5 last night, and I sent a message to Kenny and Ryan, who couldn't join us tonight, from Bourbon Pursuit. On the nose on this, I get country biscuits, heavily buttered. I know it says butter on the front, but I actually didn't realize there were tasting notes on the front of it until last night as I was going to bed. But it smells like freshly buttered country biscuits to me, and I love it on the nose. When I taste it, what jumps out to me is and it's, with Tennessee whiskey, there's always a level of peanut brittle, but I get Butterfinger candy bars. The chocolate and the inside, whatever you call the inside of that, just leaps out of the glass on it. I think it's really sweet. It's an ultra sweet bourbon, and it's really tasty, to be honest. I'm so glad this is at barrel proof, by the way, because that would not be there. It would have been drowned out, and you've gotten nothing but barrel tannins on the back of the palate.
I like that you brought up country biscuits. There's this breakfast place back on the West Coast that I like to go to called Original Pancake House. And right when I nosed this, that it was like a flashback. I was like, going to breakfast with the family at Original Pancake House.
Breakfast in a bottle.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
I think I could smell this all day. I really like this one.
Yeah, I mean, I love the way this one finishes, because you really do feel it in like the back of your jaw as like it just kind of just melts and kind of just pours over. Like I said, this one it's ranks up there, I think, of one of the best barrels that we've chosen. And, you had kind of mentioned, we had the opportunity to start this, and through our barrel broker, yes, he had a lot of high age stock, but it was all Tennessee whiskey or Tennessee bourbon. We were hesitant going into it, and because we're Kentucky boys, we were like, we immediately just said, nah, we're done. Like, we don't even want to talk about it. And then he said, let me bring you some barrel samples. You can try them, and, from there, we'll just take it. He gave us some barrel samples. Ryan came over to my house. We sat on my back porch. We started pouring. We did like a side-by-side with some pretty just standard Kentucky bourbons. And we were like, wow, this actually knocks some of them off their feet.
Yeah, it does.
I think that when we went down this, we had a stigma, most like other people have a stigma when they think of Tennessee bourbon. You're like, well, no way. Like, I'm not going to do this. But again, that's kind of where we started. We've already started progressing. We've already acquired Kentucky stock. Our barrel broker is already working with even more Kentucky stock. And we are expanding this out even further now, because the podcast, the one thing it brings is a lot of those great connections to the whiskey community. And we are now working with other distillers to private label we basically select a good single barrel and private label it under ours. So one of the next ones that come out in the May time frame is going to be from Finger Lakes Distilling, which most people might have heard of by now, because Blake has been a big champion of theirs. They do a lot of great stuff. And so we've got a 5-year wheat coming out in May. And then we also have an Empire rye coming out from them in the future as well.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, I when I first started Modern Thirst, I was very much a snob. It was Kentucky all the way, and then it had to be 2 or 3 years into it when I started really getting into Indiana stuff, and so many people gave me shit for that, and I kept saying, "Man, it's good.
Yeah,
just taste it."
Yeah, I know. Isn't that funny how it all kind of happens? Like, everybody thinks like Kentucky has got to be it, and then all of a sudden everybody's like chasing MGP.
Yeah,
and then I think people are going to start realizing relatively soon that those older stocks are dying off relatively quickly from the big distillers, the MGPs that have been sourcing forever, and oddly enough, can be the next wave.
Tennessee's going to be the next wave.
I spent some time in Nashville recently, and with a lot of bourbon people down there, and I can tell you that Tennessee is already picking up, especially in Tennessee. They know what they've got down there.
Oh yeah,
they do, and they like it. And you go to any of these folks who have far bigger bourbon collections than I'll ever have, and there's a ton of Diageo, Jack Daniels, you name it, Dickel basically, and Jack Daniels.
Right.
And they know what they've got, and there's some good stuff. So.
Yeah,
it'll catch on. It's just a matter of time. And Pennsylvania is coming along too. Baltimore is starting to put out some really good rye. And out west, I mean, you get into Distillery 291 and some of those High West, and some of those places are fantastic. So
yeah, it's father time at the end of the day. While the bourbon boom waits, and a lot of these distillers are still waiting for a lot of their spirits to mature and age. You've got a lot of good stuff that is ready today, and I think that's what you're going to end up seeing from a lot of distillers. I mean, I know being in the industry, we all kind of know that there's a few of them already today that have started shifting because they can no longer get higher aged MGP stock. And so they're looking at Tennessee themselves.
So I didn't actually mention any of the stats on episode 5, but it is 14 years old, and it's 56% alcohol by volume, so 112 proof.
And those were 5?
Yeah, and you got one of the last bottles too. So everything 1 through 5, at least of this recording, has been sold out. I think we've got about 30 or so bottles of 6 and 7. I think 70 or 80 bottles left of 8 and 9 at this point. And like I said, I think 9 is probably the one that you're going to be not the closest to with 5, but it's definitely going to be a very strong contender with how good it is.
We're moving on to episode 6. That's 11 years old, and it's 52%, so it's a 104 proof.
What do the show notes say on that one? You got to remind me a little bit.
The nose is so good, you may want to pour it into a diffuser. You guys will thank you. And I read that beforehand.
You know what's funny is...
In case you really want to, you're welcome to use the alcohol diffuser.
There you go.
I don't think
real
it does
perfumey.
anything.
That was like my first thought.
It's very floral.
Nosed it. I was like...
It has a floral note to it, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And you've got to know that when we do this, when we figure out what we're doing for our labels, we're very inefficient with how we do our labels. We pay a lot of money and have a lot of waste at the end of the day, because the way that you go and you print off labels, at the minimum, at least through our process and our manufacturer, is you have a 250 roll. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We get, at best, 150 bottles out of a barrel. So we've got 100 extra labels that are sitting around that just end up good for.
They end up on sample bottles.
They end up on sample bottles, and thankfully we can use them for that. But we go through and we're very inefficient with it, but we do it on purpose because I think what we want to try to do is try to bring that uniqueness to it. When you see it, and it stands out, and every single one is something that's a little bit different.
Well, I get a lot of potpourri and floral notes on this, and when I taste it, I honestly don't get a lot of that. What I get is a chocolate cocoa powder, like a dark chocolate powder. And there's a kind of on the back tail end of it, I do get a lot of kind of a bright red cherries, red fruit.
Yeah, I mean,
almost a grape.
I think this one has a lot of characteristics of just standard bourbon. You've got the vanilla, you got the caramel, you got the toffee, especially on the back end there. And that's what, when we go select these, we try to find really good bourbon. We're not going to find shitty bourbon and try to bottle it. Like, that's never what we want to be able to do. Or we don't want to batch it. Like, we don't want to try to hide something, because we try to find really good killer single barrels. But when we do this, as I mentioned, we try to find that variety.
Right.
So you're not tasting the same thing after every episode, but instead there's just something that's a little bit different. These subtle differences that really stand out. And hopefully, we always say the show notes will guide your way. When people always ask, well, which one should I buy? And be like, the show notes will guide you. That'll guide your way.
Well, that's fun. That's huge difference from episode 5, and it really goes to show you, if you've ever done a private barrel pick, if you've ever just tasted barrels of bourbon, how different each barrel can be. They could be right next to each other in the rick house, produced the same day, barreled the same day. Same mash bill, and they're completely different whiskeys. Mm-hmm. And that's why I say, you don't necessarily have to go hunting the Pappy Van Winkles of the world. Find somebody who knows what they're doing with private barrel picks. Absolutely. Or who can pick a single barrel and stick with them. They know what's going on. And you can get stuff like this out of it if you do a good job.
That's one of the things I look for when I go for a private barrel or a single barrel. I want something that's a label of a brand, but so off profile It's like, whoa, this doesn't taste like that brand at all. That's what really attracts me. That's my biggest attraction to a single barrel.
I generally just want something where the flavors just pop. I just want it to
Absolutely.
be concentrated. You can always find, if you're going to Buffalo Trace, you can find the Buffalo Trace flavor in anything they have.
Absolutely.
I just want it where everything is intensified or something else. It's totally different. One of the two. The last thing I want is a Buffalo Trace barrel that tastes like Buffalo Trace. I can get that. Well, used to be able to.
Used to be able to. Yeah. Not so much anymore, right?
Yeah, and that's the one thing that we really love about doing this. I think we're living in a golden age of whiskey and of bourbon right now, and there's opportunity for everybody. And as people are out there and they're trying to hunt the Buffalo Traces, the Eagle Rares, and I don't know about you guys, we see it all the time in the forums. People are posting bottles of Eagle Rare, and it's like, guys, it's Eagle Rare.
Right.
Like, it's okay. Like,
right.
You shouldn't be on the hunt for that.
Let's
Expand
right.
a little bit. It's cool if you've never had it before and you want to get your first bottle, you want to try it, but I can tell you right now, you don't need 24 bottles of Eagle Rare. I can guarantee it. You don't need that.
I will say that if you can find a single barrel of Eagle Rare, it is worth buying a few bottles of it.
Well, that's the fun thing for 2019 that Buffalo Trace reinstated the single barrel project for Eagle Rare. So I'm excited for that. I know that there hasn't been any that popped out yet on the market as far as 2019 goes, but I'm really, really looking forward for that first one to pop up and be able to drink a single barrel Eagle Rare again.
I think the last 3 picks I've been on have all been at Buffalo Trace, and they've all been for Buffalo Trace. We were actually there.
We were there. Yeah, we were there the same day.
Different picks, but same day.
You did Buffalo Trace, and I think we did Eagle Rare, and you did a Buffalo Trace.
Yeah, we did Buffalo Trace. But Buffalo Trace was one of my go-tos, or not Buffalo Trace, Eagle Rare when it was a single barrel. And I feel like the flavors are just muted now that it's not necessarily a single barrel. They claim it's sort of single barrel. But you find a good barrel pick of it, and it's right back to the old days, I guess.
Right. Absolutely.
So we're moving on to episode 7. This is another 14-year-old. It's 110 proof, so 55% alcohol.
Yeah, we try to stagger these out because we have access to a lot of this higher age 14-year stock. We've actually held a few back so we could have some 15, 16, 17-year releases. So we're thinking of the future, but we have access to the younger age, the higher age, even down to low as 2 years old and some of the stuff. However, we found that, of course, the 9 is kind of a good sweet spot. 11 is a good sweet spot. And these 14s, they just have such a rich complexity to them. That's what we really love about them. And when we release these, we do about 2 barrels a month. That was our goal when we first started. I said, well, let's start off 2 barrels a month, and we'll kind of just see how it snowballs from there. And we try to release a 14-year, and then whether it's a 9 and a 10 or 11 at the same exact time. So again, because we're conscious of the consumer, we're thinking of your shipping cost because we know that it's a lot easier to buy 2 bottles and pay 1 shipping fee than it is to buy 1.
Right.
And then it's a lot easier to pay an extra $4 to get a second bottle.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So the tasting note, the show notes on this, is it fall? Because I swear I just tasted pumpkin spice latte. I will say that on the nose on this one to me screams Tennessee bourbon. On the nose.
It does.
You get that
the peanut brittle,
kind of heavy peanut brittle and barrel char.
Totally.
To most of what I taste out of Tennessee, and on the nose, that's what I get. But when I taste it, I get a ton of cinnamon on this, which I have never gotten on a Tennessee whiskey.
Crazy baking spices for sure.
Yep. Hence the reason. Let the show notes guide the way. I tell you what.
Bring it right back to it.
It's almost like you've done this before.
I'll tell you what. I think the best part about doing this is we get to call it R&D. So we'll go down and we'll select our barrels and we'll bring back some samples, bring some bottles, and we'll set aside an afternoon and we'll sit there and we'll taste through them and we'll just be like, what do you get? What do you got? And we'll sit there and we'll just basically just throwing darts at a board, what are we getting here on this one? And Ryan was like, I get this pumpkin spice. And it's funny when you start going down this path, you realize how much stuff is trademarked. We actually couldn't put PSL on the label because PSL is actually trademarked by Starbucks.
Of course it is.
Yeah, and so because I was gonna put it's like a PSL, and people will think it's short-term pumpkin spice latte, and we're like, oh. Well, PSL's trademarked, so we gotta move on from there. So there's a lot of things that we're doing to try to try to play, because we relate a lot of the tasting notes to the food that we eat.
Of course.
And if it's a trademark thing, you necessarily can't put it on a label. So we've got to figure out some wordsmithing to get around it too.
I really like this one. On the nose, I didn't think I would, because it just tasted a little more like a Tennessee whiskey.
On the nose, it's real, like, it's.
I like it more than 6.
I always tease my wife
really
because she's a basic white girl. She loves her pumpkin spice lattes.
Of course.
And that's kind of, I was like, oh, nosing it. I'm like, oh, it's just a basic. It's just a basic.
And rosé all day.
Exactly. It's just a basic, Tennessee. It's a, full on nose, blah, blah, blah. But no, it's way more complex diving into it.
We're moving on to number 8. We're going numerical because I do everything by the book.
And since we have them all here, might as well.
Yeah, why not? This one is a 9-year, so we're going on the younger age. Now, I've tasted some 9-year barrels from these lots, and I really liked them, so I'm looking forward to this. This is 51.9%, so 103.8. Show notes said, we tried to eliminate this barrel 3 times, but couldn't do it. It's too good.
And
now,
was
that good? Why did you?
Let's do one of these.
Well, that's the problem. We're funding this by ourselves.
Oh, yeah.
We don't have any investors. It's Ryan and myself. We're bankrolling this, and so when we went down to our barrel broker, we get the opportunity to go down there, and we're tasting between 30 and 50 barrels in the span of 2 days. And we're sitting there, we're slapping stickers on barrels, and we're like, yeah, we want this one and this one and this one and this one. And towards the end of the second day, we're like, that's too many barrels. We can't afford this. And so
you get a sticker. You get a sticker.
Yeah, pretty much. And so we were like, okay, we need to dial it back a little bit, pump the brakes, as Ryan would say. And so we go back and we try all the barrels one more time. And we try to figure out, like, is this one just basic? Does it provide the variety we want? And we'll remove that. And when we found this one, we're kind of like, we've came to this 3 times and we just can't get rid of it. We couldn't do it. And oddly enough, when we went down for our 3rd trip, we had a whole new set of like 36 barrels that were rolled out. And we went back to it for a 4th time. We're like, nope, still can't get rid of it. So like I said, we tried our best to, and we just couldn't do it.
I haven't tasted this one yet, but I definitely get orchard fruits on this. This is so much different than the first 3 we've tasted. 3, right?
Yes.
3. Math is my strong suit.
It's okay. I wasn't going to try to correct you. It's not mine either.
No, I get some white grapes, maybe pear on the nose. This is very interesting. This is very different than the other 3. And it might be the age on this, the fact that it's a little bit younger.
I mean, I agree. You get a lot of the fruity notes out of this one. Again, it's
apple.
just another just solid all-around bourbon. When we did choose this, that's why we couldn't figure out something to just. We knew when we were going down this path of the show notes, we're like, we hope we don't run out of ideas because we know that there's only
like bourbon.
Yeah, there's only so many things that you can really pull out of a lot of stuff. So we're hoping we don't run out. We haven't ran out yet.
List vanilla and caramel one more time, please.
Like if somebody says Werther's original, you're gonna go down.
One of the things that marzipan.
So we're on episode number 9 right now, and this one is the pastries. I agree with the show notes again on this one, dead on. It tastes like chocolate. It tastes and smells like chocolate to me. I get chocolate covered donuts on the nose, and I get a lot of chocolate on the palate.
I'm just honestly glad that you all agree with the show notes, because that's almost like our biggest fear, is that we put a little bit of confirmation bias in somebody's head, and we're like, we're telling you exactly what you should be getting out of this. And we didn't really necessarily want to do that at first, but as soon as we started going down here, we realized how do we describe something in the show notes without really talking about the bourbon in itself? And so that's why we said, you know what, let's just go for it. If somebody disagrees with us, that's fine. They can pull out their own tasting notes, but we're always conscious of it. We're like, God, I hope we chose the right thing. Yeah. But so far, we're I think we're batting 1,000.
I always feel like, and I've said it on many of our videos, I've said it in a lot of our posts, that you're not always going to agree with what I say. You may not agree with my what I say, the flavors I pull out of it. You may not agree with how well I rate something. But hopefully enough people identify with my opinions and my tastes that more people will continue to come back to Modern Thirst and watch what we do. And that's why we have additional writers like Timothy and Wes out in Colorado and Nick in Texas. We want to have a lot of different opinions and viewpoints for people. And, you know, the advantage to that is they don't have to agree with what you say as long as they identify with it. Like, I may not like it,
right,
but I identify with what you're saying, and I can use that as a buying decision. Even if I'm the polar opposite of Bill, and every time Bill writes his tasting notes and he says he hates something, I know I love it. Come back to Modern Thirst and read everything that I hate, and then go buy a bottle of it.
There you go.
And the same thing with tasting notes is you can follow it, you can agree with it, you can not agree with it, whatever it is. It's there as a guide. If you don't want to use it as a guide, you don't have to.
Absolutely. Yeah, you definitely nailed the head on that one. I mean, like I said, we're happy, and thank you once again for inviting me on here to be able to talk about, you know, Pursuit Series, you know, kind of our umbrella of Pursuit Spirits. We have no idea if the future holds in regards of brand extensions or line extensions. We just know that these episodes are fun to bring these single barrels, these expressions, because again, what we're trying to do is really cater to the enthusiast by choosing what we would love to drink, because we know that's probably what most real enthusiasts would like. So you don't have to go there and search for the shelves for the next great bourbon, or only have to stick with you know, whatever 90 proof thing that you can only find at the liquor store, right? So we want to be able to try to give you something that is going to bring you that variety.
Yeah, and I go back again to what we said early on. Everything is at barrel proof and it's unfiltered, and that's the way to do it. If you know, I understand people who don't like high proof bourbon, but taste this, and if batch 9 is a little too strong for you, add some water.
Add some water.
You can add all the water you want, but if you get something that's 90 proof and it doesn't quite pop enough for you, it's kind of hard to take that water out and get it back up to 110 or 100 or whatever you like to drink it at. So
I can guarantee you that we didn't try any of these with water, so that is your mileage may vary.
But I do say, you know, don't shy away from something because you don't like high proof bourbon. Just add water to it. That's all the distillers do when they put it in a bottle. If they bottle something at 90 proof, it didn't come out of the barrel at 90 proof. I promise you that. It came out much higher than that, and they added water. So if there's something that everyone else loves and you feel like you would love if it wasn't 120, if it's a Elijah Craig barrel proof or Pursuit Series, you know, if you like the overall nose of it, if you like some of the general flavors, but it's too hot, just add a little water. Yeah, it'll open it up a little bit for you too, and you know, it's just more approachable for everyone. But if you put something out at 80 proof, Basil Hayden, and you put something out at 90 proof, and you got people who really want a little more full flavor, they're just you've just kind of proofed yourself out of their wallets.
Absolutely,
it's just not going to happen. So
you nailed it.
I know for me, like, once again, bringing back to a memory, this, I think it's interesting that it says pastries, because it reminds me of, once again, memory of being in line on a Saturday morning. I live right down the street from Nord's Bakery. Being in line at Nord's Bakery, waiting to get your dozen donuts. This is just, it's awesome. And I also enjoy the fact that, you know, you have your tasting notes here, show notes on the bottle, because one of the things, like, whether you're a deep dive into the bourbon industry, you know, drinking bourbon, or, you know, you're new into it, when you're in a liquor store, you're on your phone, like,
you're looking for apps.
What does this taste like?
What does Bourboner say about
this? Guess what?
Yeah. I mean, Modern Thirst.
Pick up the bottle and read it. Yeah. And you're gonna, like, the notes have been spot on.
Yeah.
From the beginning to where we are now. Like,
it's almost like they know what they're doing.
Right?
Well, it's, you know, you say that, but, you know, we don't really, like, think of, we know that we're never going to be distilling. We're not going to be master distillers. We're not going to be master blenders. Like, that's not our goal. we think we can choose some really killer single barrels. Like, that's really kind of what we hang our hat on. And if we can just continue down that path, I think we're going to be successful, as long as people give it a try and they kind of experience it for themselves. And that's really what we hope to get out of, you know, a lot of consumers out there as well.
Well, I'm a fan. This is, again, last night I tasted episode 5, and this is the first time I've had anything past that. I'm a fan. I really like it. And if you keep picking barrels like this, I don't think you're going to have any
This is my favorite one so far. This is the only one. I mean, I loved all of them, but this was the first one where I was like, I'm going to pour myself a little more, because this one is just like, this one makes me really happy. Everything so far I've tasted reminds me of something, like either present or past, but this one I'm just like,
I'm still stuck on the Butterfingers from episode 5. So
That's fine. You can be stuck on that. But
I've
this
reached
one,
back for 7 because I want to try it again because it might be my second favorite.
There you go. You got that pumpkin spice latte, I think, right there.
I'm a white girl, apparently.
it's because you are basic
You very basic.
AF.
Yeah. But no, I mean, I'm glad that you were able to recognize and see that at least we can keep the notes at least going. Like, I have to give a lot of credit to Ryan for that. Ryan is very creative in his descriptions and his thought process when it comes to actually figuring out these show notes. He's excelled way beyond about what I can do of trying to figure out the taste and stuff that he's pulling. He can taste trail mix now. He can taste all kinds of stuff. And I'm just like, I don't know how he does it, but he does it. So
we invited Ryan tonight, but he chose to be with his family instead of with us. So yeah, we know how that goes. Yeah. Anyway, thanks for joining us. We really appreciate it. This was a lot of fun, and I really love what's going on with Pursuit Spirit. So keep us posted on what's going on in the future, and hope to have you on again sometime.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, guys, for having me, Bill and Tim, and anybody that's looking to purchase a bottle. You can get more information about each one of these at PursuitSpirits.com, and then again, if you want to have them. And there's links there for each single one of them that you basically get linked directly to Sealbox.com. And Sealbox is our online retail partner, and they will deliver directly to your door as long as your state allows the shipments. So thank you again, fellas.
What was it you said that you still had available as far as like if I went to the site right now and I could be like, oh, I want that one?
So as of today, we've got 6, 7, 8, and 9.
Don't sleep on the 9.
Yeah.
Go right now, get that 9.
9 and 7 right now.
9 is
out there. Get that. Yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
So you can obviously, if you're not watching, if you're not listening to Bourbon Pursuit, you need to check that out. It's on any place you find a podcast, you'll find it. It's great stuff. You can follow. Also, if you want to support them on Patreon, you might get a little more insight into or a little more availability in terms of some of their private barrels here. And as always, if you like what we're doing, if you're watching us on YouTube, please like and follow us, and check us out at ModernThirst.com. We love what we're doing, and you can support us on Patreon as well. We just started our Patreon program recently, so it's patreon.com/ModernThirst. Thanks a lot. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.
Cheers.
Cheers, everybody.